Hey, I'm Evan on the Only Empty Hands YouTube channel, where you can learn to do Kempo katas, training, and Kempo karate techniques. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about personal safety in terms of avoiding being mugged and attacked when you're out in public. The reason I'm going to talk about that is at work, obviously as a police officer I deal with thousands and thousands of crimes, but I've also personally been robbed at gunpoint and had two other situations where, because of becoming more aware, I was able to avoid what probably would have been another robbery attempt. And so I'm going to talk about how to stay safe in terms of three experiences that I've had and the lessons that I learned from them. So the first time I was robbed, I was young, about 19 years old, and a friend and I were in a foreign country and we're on our way home. It was nighttime. And I very clearly remember that we stopped so that he could withdraw some money from an ATM. The thing about the memory that's interesting is, like I say, it's very clear. Usually when you're involved in some kind of a dangerous situation, things get imprinted in your mind in a very vivid way. That's just part of the trauma and how your brain deals with trauma when you experience it. So my memory of that is us getting the money, but me looking around and seeing a bunch of people sitting around watching my friend make that withdrawal, who made me very uncomfortable. There were just different things about him, and it wasn't something that I was wise enough to actually even consciously recognize at that time. But it's interesting that here I am 42 years old, and I still have that very clear memory of my mind trying to warn me that there was going to be a problem from all that time ago when I was 19. So what happened, we started walking home, and as we were walking down a dark street, all of a sudden a kid pulled up on a bicycle, pointed a revolver at us. I can very clearly remember the revolver and the barrel of that gun pointed right at me. He took what little money I had, and then he took a significant amount of money from my friend, and then took off on his bike, and that was it. So we were safe. Here I am in my karate gi. I did not try to do some crazy technique, and stop him from robbing us or anything like that. That didn't even cross my mind. I did stay calm, which I think martial arts can help you do in emergencies. But I just gave him what he asked for, he left, we were okay. But as I look back on that, there were some huge red flags that we missed. The first one is just being environmentally aware. Obviously, I knew something was wrong when he was getting that money. And when you think logically, it is not smart to go and get money at night and do it in front of a bunch of people that you don't know. That's just asking for trouble. And then, as we were walking home, I'm sure I could have seen that kid coming up on the bike. We were about halfway through the block when he came up in front of us, so I missed that one. I was busy talking to my friend, and it was just like all of a sudden he appeared and there was a gun in my face. So fast forward a little bit, a few years later, I was at a party in a big city. We were going from one street section of it to another section, and I remember thinking, hey, let's take this shortcut. And was actually with my wife at that point. And we walked down a darker street that didn't have anybody on it. And so here I am repeating the same theme, not being aware, walking into a place where it would be intelligent for a criminal to hide so they can pick off stupid people that are making bad choices. And I'm walking with my wife down that street. He had no thought, didn't pre-plan, what's a good idea, what's a bad idea, where should we be, was just thinking, well, here's the fastest way to get where we're going. And again, very clear memories because there was a traumatic experience associated with this chain of events. And so as we walked down, we got about half a block from where the party was happening back on the main street, and I perceived somebody lurking in the shadows as we passed. They started to step out, I clearly remember, and then I remember just sliding my hand up the back of my coat as if I was armed. And that was more of an instinctual thing. I don't know that it's smart to lie and pretend, but in this case, it made the person step back into the shadows, and then we kind of hurried along and got to where we were going. So now I'm up to two early life experiences where I was not aware, I didn't take the safest route, I didn't really look and think about what might be the consequences of what I was doing. And I got a gun pointed at me one time, and probably would have the other time if I hadn't acted as if I was armed. So, bad situations. None of that is some great victory for me, even though I was lucky and I survived and got out of it okay. It was all based on luck. Now, a little later, about a year and a half ago, my wife and I went to another foreign country We're on vacation. We'd been out snorkeling. It was late. We'd ridden the ferry back to the main district where we could then walk to our condo. We're walking down the main street, and I'm a lot older and wiser now, and I was very hyper aware. I knew we looked exactly like tourists. It was a big party section, the street that we were walking down, but I knew that there would be people in that area looking for someone who was unaware that they could take advantage of and either rob or hurt. So as we walked along, I started looking at people. I started thinking, okay, what's going on? I made sure my wife was in front of me. I looked at how she was carrying her bag, knowing that that would be the fastest thing for somebody to snatch. And as we started walking along, I started noticing that there were people who were kind of out of place. They were leaning up against the wall, sunglasses on, just kind of watching people go by. They were local, they weren't tourists. I had a few people offer to sell me drugs as we passed their booths on the way. And so I started to go into an even higher state of alert and concern. We got about a block down that road, and I noticed off to the side, in the midst of this big crowd, but my mind picked out a woman and her husband standing there with a police officer, and she was crying. And I knew, okay, she's just been robbed. Something's going wrong. There are actively people here who are committing crimes, and I'm here with my wife, and we're in danger. Then I had someone kind of get uncomfortably close to me in the street. It seemed like they were separating me from my wife a little bit. And so I pushed around them and stayed close to her. And all of these things, I was now in a state of mind where I said, okay, something is going to happen, and I need to make sure I'm ready for it because I'm with someone I really care about, and I'm going to make sure she stays safe, and I'm also going to make sure I stay safe. And the last piece of this, as we got a little farther down the street, I remember seeing another one of those people leaning up against the wall with the sunglasses, and I was watching and scanning behind me, and I saw somebody move in behind, walking the same track as us, and coming up fast behind us. So I knew, just instinctively, hey, this guy's coming up to get my wife's purse. And so your brain is set up to survive, right? It's going to teach you what's going on. If you're aware and you start basically thinking and get a little bit of a safety mindset going for yourself, you're going to see stuff that's wrong, stuff that's going on that should make you very concerned and alert. And then you need to know some basic tactics that you can do to protect yourself from that. So in this case, what I did was I turned, made sure the guy saw that I saw him, and got myself more directly in the path between him and my wife. He veered off because he knew that I was aware of what he was going to come and do. And then at that point, I took my wife's purse. I told her what was going on, and we still had a little ways to walk. And so I just stayed more aware, made sure she was aware, and we got back to our condo safely. So again, just learn to listen to what you're feeling inside, those warning signals that naturally go off. They've been there for, what, millions and millions of years when the human race has had to survive. They still exist in you. You do need to take a little bit of time to become aware of the things to watch out for. You also need to take some time to become aware of how to prepare yourself. What should you do when those things are going to happen? And it honestly has very little to do with learning karate or some other kind of self-defense, but it has a ton to do with learning tactics, learning to place yourself in the right situations, learning to make yourself a hard target to take advantage of. Because just like any predator, these criminals are going to go find an easier victim if you're someone who's going to be very difficult to get to. And that's going to keep you much safer and prevent a really high percentage of any time that you actually might be victimized simply by making those changes in your life. So stay safe. Hope this was helpful to you. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to learn more about Kempo Karate and martial arts. And then I will be doing a follow-up video that talks about pre-attack indicators and what you should watch for. Have a great day.